And now I'd like to introduce our presenter, Alexander Nouveau. He is the founder of a real estate lead generation company, an executive resume service, and recently www.nouveaustartups.com. It's a company that helps business owners rapidly scale their businesses. Alexander, a brief introduction. If you're welcome to tell us more about you and your business. At this point, let me hand over the speaker and the microphone and the controls, and they are yours. Please go ahead.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much for the introduction. I'm excited to teach for y'all today. So let's get started. Before we get too far, I just want to do a quick icebreaker to make sure the technology is working. Everyone can use the chat. So what I like to do is have everybody introduce yourselves. And I want to know what's the name of your business. And then the icebreaker question is, what's the favorite place that you've ever traveled? Or if you don't do a lot of travel, what is your favorite place or most beautiful place in the world? And I'll go first since I started. My name is Alexander Nouveau. I am a SCORE success story. I've been a SCORE client for years, and I was in your chair several years ago. And I used SCORE's resources to find a mentor, to go to education, learn stuff, and now I'm here presenting to you. And so I hope when you listen to the content that you realize that I'm teaching this because I want to give back to help you guys become success stories like myself. I'm out of Austin, Texas, and so that's me. My business, I've got 3 businesses. The one right now, Nouveau Startup, who's helping other folks kind of replicate my success. My favorite place you've ever traveled. When my wife and I got married a few years ago, I own virtual businesses. And so we decided to move to Sevilla, Spain for 3 months. And so we were in Sevilla from like December to March. It was beautiful. And southern Spain is like, the scenery is like outside of something in a movie. It's gorgeous. Now, I don't speak any Spanish and I'm very bad at language, unfortunately. My wife is a pretty fluent speaker. So we had a great time. So that's my favorite. And I'll read out from the chat. So we got Angie from, sorry if I said this wrong, Chaffee Chick Design in Finger Lakes. It's awesome. Baker Farm, LLC, Aruba. I haven't been to Aruba, but it sounds fun. It's on my list. We got Robbie, Allercare, Emerald Lake, British Columbia. Haven't been there yet either. This is also good for me to come up with new places, new excuses to travel places, guys. So appreciate it. Lifesavers Incorporated, Dubai. Never been in Dubai. That's on my list too. Got Abby Spindleman. Sorry if I said that last name wrong. 5 Points Farming. I got back from San Miguel. Nice. Let's see. Hope Skip Connect. Route 66. I have never driven on the entire thing. But that's my goal. Oral Sports, Sicily. I've never been there, but it's on my list. You guys have got great suggestions. Hello, Stephen Laddle. Play places. Hilton Head, South Carolina. Never heard of it, but it's on my list now. All right, so we got a lot of answers. I can't say everybody's stuff, but I appreciate you guys giving some suggestions, introducing yourself. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. So in today's webinar, we're going to teach, really, whenever I teach content, I want you to think about your destination. What do I want? And really, if you're building a business, your business is your baby. You're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. And it matters. And so when we talk about scaling, I want you to be able to keep ownership as much of this as possible. So you're going to learn how to scale without having to give away precious equity to investors. And underneath that, there's several concepts we're going to talk about. One is the money machine in your basement. Another one is how to engineer your business in a way to make double, 5 times, or 10 times more than competitors from your clients. We're talking about the magic green button and how when you push this, it will change everything in your business. We're talking about how if you do decide to buy a business or expand, how you can do it like a billionaire and have a proven system to actually be successful with putting a lot less on risk into your operations. And then we're going to end with the one domino concept, which is very important thing for you to understand as you scale your business. Now, let's talk about why we're here and why this particular topic is timely right now. Who here has heard the doom and gloom stories about rising interest rates? Who here has seen banks start to fail? Who here has heard people talk about, oh my gosh, all these companies are not getting fundraising? So for me, I live in Austin, Texas, and I know a lot of startup founders, and a lot of them are trying to raise money. You know what's not happening? They're not raising money because interest rates are important to if you need to raise money or borrow money in a business. And so if you are dependent on raising money, it is going to be very hard to do that as we continue. That's why you hear of all these massive layoffs in tech, because if you don't have money to pay your employees, you have to lay people off. And so capital intensive business like technology, that's how it works, okay? But what does this mean for you and your small business? Well, it means that borrowing money is going to be harder and more expensive, because think of it from the perspective of the lender. Like for them, they're tightening their belts. And so things that they would be more comfortable risk-wise a few years ago that would just seem normal now seem super risky. And things that seem risky beginning are just like way too much now. And so now more than ever, this concept matters, because if you want to scale and you want to be successful, this is the blueprint how to do it without having to rely as much on investors or banks. So you can be able to do it yourself, which is the traditional way, which is having such a massively successful business that can fund its own growth. And if you can unlock that secret, that's when things will change for you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, talking specifically about why you're here. This particular workshop is intended for everyone, but specifically for people who have a successful business that they want to scale. Now, to do that, you may believe you need investors, money, and other type of support. And here's the thing, and this is something I want to highlight. Building a business isn't your main dream. It's what helps you achieve what you really want. And what you really want is freedom. That's what everybody wants. That means freedom to be your own boss, freedom for financially, which means you can do what you want whenever you want. You don't have to worry about, let's say you have a health crisis. Well, I've got the funds to protect my family. You have the money to go travel wherever you want. You have financial freedom to do what you want whenever you want, which is also time freedom. But the moral of the story here is you want to be able to live your dream without being chained to a 9-to-5 job, making somebody else rich. You want to be the person who's successful and wealthy yourself. Now, so in today's workshop, I'm going to teach you how you can achieve your dream faster. And when you are successful, help you get a bigger payout if you decide to one day sell your business. Now, here's the thing. If you have a business and you're like selling a business is 5 years off, this is the workshop you need to be in today. Even if you just started a business, you need to be in this workshop today, because the things you do today affect everything that happens 5 years from now. Let me give you an example. Let's say that one day you're successful, you decide to sell your business for $10 million. A lot. If you own 100% of this business, you get to keep all those proceeds, minus Uncle Sam's cut, but you know what I'm saying here. Now, if you only own 25% because you had to sell pieces of the business to get funding to grow, you only get 2.5 million. Now, again, that's a lot of money, but last time I checked, that's a smaller number. So the things and the reason why you're here could be worth $7.5 million. If I don't have your attention, I should have your attention now. So I want you to learn today, because this is why it matters. And that's a lot of money. That's why. Now, before we talk about scaling, we need to talk about the money machine in your basement, because this is the most important thing you have to talk about before we talk about scaling, okay? So imagine that you had a machine in your basement that printed money. Every day, you look at your clock, it prints off $100 bills every day. And these money machines come in all shapes and sizes. Some are very manual that require you to crank them 10 hours per day to work. Okay, like you got to crank it, you got to be there. It doesn't print money unless you're there. Others, you push a button, they're automated. You leave for the day, it prints out cash with minimal maintenance. You own a money machine right now. It's your business. It requires inputs like anything else. So your time and labor, your customers, materials, whatever. And it has a process which eventually prints off $100 bills. You may have not thought about your business like that before, but I want you to start thinking of it like this, because when you think of it like a machine, that means you can change it and make it better, okay? Now, here's why you need to think about it as a machine, because this machine probably has a lot of problems, okay? Most of y'all's machines is manual, which means it only works if you're around. If you leave, it stops working. Not a great machine, right? Like, can you imagine having to so I want to point that out first. And it might not be the best at bringing in the things it needs. For example, it might not be good at bringing in things like customers. It also might not be that profitable. Sometimes the inputs, like the cost of acquiring a customer, the cost of materials, cost of employees, may actually be more expensive than the money it prints out. You could put $200 in and only get $100 out. That's a winning proposition. It's a losing proposition. Now, here's the thing. Here's why this matters, okay? So a lot of you want to scale your business. And what, in my brain, what that means is copying your machine. But a lot of machines aren't ready to be scaled yet. You see where I'm going with this? And this is a problem, because if you try to scale a average or below average machine that has problems, you get 10 copies with all the problems of the first one. And which is more complicated? Having one with 10 problems, or 10 with 100 problems? You see what I'm saying? So before you do any scaling, you must fix your machine, because if you don't, you're going to struggle. You got to get it right the first time. So how do we fix it? Well, ask yourself this question. And this is a very important one. This is like something that people don't think about, because they, most of the time, well, I don't want to get go out to the beaten path here, but ask yourself this. How much am I earning per customer compared to my competitors? Think about it. Do you have a service? Do you have a product? Are you charging the exact same as your customers? As your competitors? Are you making the same money, or are you lowering your prices to win more customers with lower prices and making less money? What I want you to do is think of it more like this. How do I make 2 times, 5 times, 10 times more money than my competitors? So if my competitor makes $100 from a customer, how do I make 1,000? If they make 200, how do I make 2,000? It's a different way of thinking about the problem. Now, why does this question matter? It matters because one of the inputs that's really expensive in most businesses is acquiring customers. It's expensive. Probably one of the most expensive things in your business. What do I mean by that? Well, think about it. Let's say that I'm selling pizzas, and I'm a small business owner and I run ads on Google to sell pizzas. Well, if I sell a pizza for $10, I have to spend part of that money on acquiring a customer through ads. Ads are expensive. They go up every year. What happens if it costs $5 in ads to acquire pizza? Well, that's half my budget. You see what I'm saying? So it's one of the most expensive things you're going to be doing, and it's something that goes up every year. Media costs do not go down. Now, here's the thing. If your money machine makes double, 5 times, 10 times more than your competitors, it means you can spend more money on advertising versus your peers and win more customers. And I want you to internalize this quote from Dan Kennedy, okay? The company that can spend the most money to acquire a customer wins. And they win because they can advertise in expensive places their competitors can't even touch them. They also win because when they advertise, they jack up all the advertising costs so competitors can't even advertise at all. I'll give you a quick example on how this points to illustrate this point. So this was a conversation I was having a couple months ago with a small business owner. This person owns a web hosting company for small businesses, which means, think about it. You have everybody here probably has a website, yeah? And you probably pay like $10 a month to host it somewhere, or 15 or 20 or whatever. Well, he was running a product where he's making like $10, $20 on it. And he's really frustrated because it's really hard to get new customers. And what's interesting is he specifically mentioned that GoDaddy was spending $100 per click to get people to their website. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with paid per click advertising, let's say that you do a Google search and you search web hosting. okay, like on Google. What that's saying is if you, the consumer, click on that ad, that charges GoDaddy $100 just by clicking that ad. Think about that. That's not a sale. That's just by clicks. So how does this person who only charges $15 compete with somebody who can bid $100 just for a little click? And by the way, like, they're not converting 100% of the people who buy. So they're spending a gobs of money to get these customers. And if he tried to do that himself, charging $15 a month, it would take years even to break even with his current offerings. It wouldn't make sense. Now, when I mention this, it's important to note that GoDaddy's money machine makes more per customer than its competitors. Therefore, it wins and earns the customer because it can outspend everybody else. Now, here's the thing. When I share this story and others, one of the common responses, that's unfair. That's not, you shouldn't be able to do that. You shouldn't be able to spend that much money on a customer. That's just unfair. You're suffocating us in the market. Instead of doing that, I want you to ask yourself this question. How do I be more like GoDaddy? How do I add so much value to my customer that I make 10 times what everybody else makes? How do I make my machine so profitable that I can spend $200 per click and beat out big companies like GoDaddy? See, that's how you want to approach this, because if you approach it the other way, the economics are never going to make sense. You're never going to have a business that can be massively successful and profitable like these kind of companies. And this case study is just an example of how to think about this. But what I want you to think about is competitor charges $100. How do I charge $1,000? And when I say $1,000, I'm talking about the not just one service, but the value you add to a customer. So it's not like, think about it like this. If you go to a grocery store and you walk in, like, let's say my wife calls me and say, hey babe, go to the grocery store and get some milk. Do I walk out with just milk? No, I buy like 10 other things. And so when you think about value, what I'm talking about is how do I make more per customer 10 times? How do I add 10 times more value to the customer so I can make more from them, so I can spend more money on advertising them? Because the one item doesn't matter. What matters is with the entire cart. And that's why I said this, adopting the mantra of the business that can spend the most money on attracting a customer wins. That's what I want you to take away from this, okay? And I'll pause here and see if there's any questions. Just some comments. Awesome. Okay, so how do we make double, 5 times, 10x per customer? Great question. We need to fix your customers and fix your offers. Now, this is not in this presentation, but I have a secret success formula that I have everybody follow, okay? And it's very simple. Well, there's actually 5 things. There's 4 steps and a 5th hidden one that I'm not going to talk about really that much. Step 1 is find your best customer. These are the ones who value you a lot, that are profitable, that pay up front, that don't hassle you. Number 2, slam dunk offers. Make them an offer they can't refuse, that they love and they'll buy and get in line in. 3 is leads on demand, which is get more customers fast. And 5 is sales magic, which is here's how you convert these customers. Now, these topics are covered in other webinars that I do for SCORE, so I'd encourage you to look up some more of those, the topics. But for now, the big thing that I want to mention here is if you're going to scale, you have to fix the first 2 first, which is I have to find the right customers that will pay for what I'm offering. And 2, make them a slam dunk offer, which will be valuable and let them buy. So that's why I say here, think for a second. Who are your best customers? These are the ones who pay the most, are easy to work with, and that you like. Who are they? Now, think about your worst customers. And if you've got my experience running businesses, I bet they're cheap. They pester you a lot with questions. They're hard to work with, not very profitable. Now again, just to shorten the presentation of the other one we're talking about, my whole thing is you have to find your best customers. Instead of having 10 of average customers, have 10 of your best. Get rid of all the people who are unprofitable and hard to work with and focus on the best. Now, like I said earlier, if you're curious, I've got other topics I do about this. Now, once we know your best customer, the next thing is to pose the question, how do I help my customer either remove a migraine level problem that they can't deal with themselves or achieve their European destination? Now, when I talk about this particular European destination, this is how I think about it. And this is how I reflect on everything when I think about serving a customer. Ask yourself this. Would you, let's say somebody offered you two travel options. Would you rather have a 3-day weekend trip in Cleveland or a 3-week all expenses paid getaway in Europe with all the best food, all the best hotels, all the best experiences? I don't know about you, but I'm getting excited for Europe because that's amazing. And so one of the reasons why your business is not making a considerably large amount of money per customer is because a lot of times businesses copy each other. You look at what everyone else is charging, you charge the same, maybe a little less, without understanding what the customer really wants. And if you can figure out what their Europe is and solve it, that's way more profitable, way better for them value-wise and for you. Or the reverse is solving a headache problem, a migraine problem over a headache. Like, think of it like this. There are some things in your life that are headaches where you just take a pill, it goes away. You can't take a pill and get rid of a migraine. You can't. Who here has had migraines? I have them all the time. Maybe like once a quarter. When I've got a migraine, my head feels like it's going to explode. When light feels like laser beams go in your eyes and it hurts. Like if I hear a pin drop, it makes my head throb. That's how bad a migraine problem is. And so when we talk about solving problems for customers, you don't want to solve an annoying problem, like a small problem, like a headache. You want to solve a big problem like a migraine because that's more valuable to them, okay? So in business, customers have a version of their European destination that they want, but most businesses are only giving them Europe, which is a problem because you're not going to make any real money unless you figure out what they really want. So you have to figure out what Europe is for them and sell them that and fulfill it well. And we do that with what's called the value ladder. Now, imagine a value ladder like this. And by the way, this is a workshop I haven't put together yet, but this is one how to create offers that people can't refuse. But I want you to think about your customer as, and I'll let this out and I'll talk about it. So imagine this is a ladder. We're just going up and down here, okay? And at the bottom are free offers to $1,000 worth of stuff. Now, you're probably going to get way more people down here than people that buy stuff up here. But the value in the service or the products you put as you go up are more expensive and more valuable, and fewer people buy them. So what happens is most businesses have products and services down here. Let me ask you this. People in the chat, do you guys have anything that's higher than this? Probably not, because you don't think, nobody's taught you to think about it like this. So when I think about my customers or whatever business I'm in, I'm like, okay, well, how do I serve as many people as possible with a low value thing? Okay, I create that product or service. And then how do I find a smaller group of people who want more value? It'll pay more. Well, there's probably less of them, but they're still there. So when you make a business, what happens is most companies are competing down here. They've got offers that they sell for a low price, and they don't know that they can work up this value ladder and sell for more and offer more value. Now, again, you may have a $50,000 offer and sell 5 a year, but that might be worth more than all these offers combined. See my point? Now, again, I'm going to be teaching a workshop on this, so I'm not going to go too much into here, but the point that I want you to understand is that you have to add more value to the customer, just like that shopping cart example. It doesn't matter what you sell the customer once. It matters over the lifetime of the relationship, how much can you sell them stuff? And when I say sell them, how much can they buy? Because you don't want to sell them anything. This is a relationship where everybody should be saying thank you when they buy a product from you. They should love what you offer. They should be happy to buy a $50,000 offer from you. That's how happy they are as a customer. So that's what I'm trying to get at. So when I say make 10 times more than everybody else, what I'm saying is for the lifetime of your customer, how do you make 10 times more than your competitors? It changes the way you think about stuff, because if you say, hey, I'm not making that much, then you have to fix your offers in your business, or you have to fix your customers first. Because if you have customers who are cheap and who don't want to buy your service, you have to find better customers because they're never going to buy your better offers. And I don't know about you, but when I look at businesses, anybody I talk to them, and if you'll verify this if you talk to a lot of business owners, is 1% of business owners are massively, awesomely successful. The other next 4 to 5% are doing pretty good. Other 10 are making it by. Everybody else is broke. That's how it works. And so if you are copying the vast majority of people who are not doing good and broke, then you're never going to change your outcomes, which is having a life worth living, having freedom, which is having to be able to do what you want when you want. Because really, if you're a business owner, that's probably what you want, okay? Being a business owner is a pain in the ass. And you're only doing it because the outcomes are worth it. And so if you want to learn one thing, it's you got to fix your value ladder. You got to have more offers and you can make more per customer. This is a big deal before we scale. Okay, so the problem with your money machine is that you don't have enough offers that customers want to buy and are profitable. Want to buy and profitable are important here. You probably have similar offers to competitors in your market, and there's commodity pressure. Again, it's another topic for another day. But what that means is if somebody in the market charges $100 for a service, you're probably like, I'm going to charge 90, maybe less. And then everyone kind of oscillates around this number. Nobody's making any money because they're afraid to raise their prices. And that means you make the same as everybody else, not more than everybody else. So what you need to be able to do is create a higher value products and services and have customers with the ability and desire to buy them. Think like this. Let's say our competitors sell the product for $200. You also sell the $200 product, but you also sell $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 products they can also buy in the future. If you have more offers, you end up making more money per customer over the lifetime of the customer. So I'm going to pause for questions here too. Let's see, there's a couple of comments in the chat. Oh, thanks, guys. I'm glad that you're enjoying the webinar. Appreciate the comments. I'll pause for questions if you guys have any. I'll just take a sip of water here. I got a little bit of notice to mute myself for that. And I'll have room at the end for questions too, if you guys want to hold them at the end. I just want to make sure I give you guys space. Okay, so next thing we're talking about is something called the magic green button. And this is one of my favorite concepts. Okay, I got one comment here. It's hard when your product sales range 25 cents to 15,000. Well, it's hard if it's free to 15,000. But yeah, you know, it is hard, and that's where the magic comes in, is saying, yeah, it is hard, but how am I going to pull it off? That's what I want you to think about, because you got to acknowledge it's hard. Because if this was easy, wouldn't everybody be doing it? Of course. Do you want everybody to copy you? No, you want to be the 1%. You don't want them copying you. So yeah, it is hard. And that's why I'm teaching this stuff and I'm creating workshops to help you guys be able to do this stuff and pull it off. Absolutely. All right, so this is another one I want you guys to really think about, and I want you to really absorb, okay? Because it's something I want you to get onto your money machine installed if you can, because this is something that should change the way you run your business. Because when you add it, it makes running a business so much easier, removes a lot of pain, stress, and allows you to actually expand rapidly. So what's this magic green button I talk about? Well, think of this for a second, and I want you to imagine. Imagine that you could push a button on your machine and it printed all the cash that machine would ever print in the entire life of the machine. Think about it. Like your business, you push a button, every dollar it ever make, it printed today. That'd be pretty awesome, wouldn't it? Instead of waiting for $5 million over 10 years to make that much, imagine you get it all today. Man, it changes the way you think about stuff, doesn't it? That'd be an awesome upgrade. Yeah, I think so. So now here's the thing. It's unlikely you're going to get the full magic button on your machine because it just doesn't work like that. But knowing that button exists, we can create a less powerful version so you get that money sooner. Let's say for the entire year the machine runs, or the month, or the day, or the project, whatever. Imagine whenever you sold an offer to a customer that you got all the money up front. Instead of having to wait 50-50 up front, get paid at the end, maybe they pay you in 3 months, you got every single dollar today. And when it comes to expenses, the green button is awesome. Let's say that all the stuff you paid, like suppliers, inventory, staff, all that stuff got paid later. Think about it. All the money you ever make right now, all your expenses are paid later. Now, a lot of you got, so here's the thing. I have an accounting degree, and so I can nerd out on this stuff. But for business owners, a lot of times what happens is you're so focused on getting sales and grinding that some of the stuff, what I don't want to do is I don't want this to go over your head and I want your eyes closed. I want to focus on simple concepts where you can understand. But really think about it. If you can get paid today and you can delay your expenses, what you have is an interest-free loan. Think about it. So what do you do with that interest-free loan? Instead of having to go to the bank, you can use it, right? So it would also mean you'd have a lot of money in your pocket right now because you get customers to give all their money up front and you pay expenses later. So when we talk about getting money from the bank, this is or investors, this is kind of the magic sweet spot here. And this is one of the critical things for scaling without investors, is figuring out how you can actually pull this off. Now, why is it critical? Because the reason you need investors is because you need money to buy assets, pay staff, etc. If you install the magic green button on your machine, this will help you generate the kind of cash you need to reduce the need for these investors or loans. I'll give you an example to show you how this works, because I'm going to use my business, for example, okay? Well, not the entire business, but I'm giving you an example of how it worked for me. So let's say that my business generates 10 customers a month and the average sale is $5,000. That means there's $50,000 in sales, which gets deposited in your bank account as soon as you get the customer. Now, when you run a business, remember, we're paying money for advertising. So we get to pay the advertising later. If you're advertising on Google Ads will bill you at the end of the month, or when you hit $500 threshold, doesn't matter. But you can set it up so you pay at the end of the month. So which means you got to get the money deposited in your cash today. And then at the end of the month, let's say January 1st, you get the cash, January 30th, you get billed, and you put it on a credit card. You have a business credit card. Well, your business credit card gives you 30 days interest-free to pay that, which you have in the bank. So you have 2 months of sitting on $50,000 that you can use in your business until you have to pay bills. And then February comes around, same thing. You get another $50,000. You see how this works? So you have more money that you can use to grow your business without having to pay expenses. So that when I talk about interest-free loans, this is where what happens when you have the magic green buttons. You have free cash flow that you can use to reinvest in your business. And this, by the way, this is very different from most businesses. Now I'm going to describe some businesses and you guys will see what I mean by here. A lot of business models work where a lot of times B2B stuff, B2B relationships is business to business. Let's say that you're providing a service for business or a product or whatever. The business will say, okay, you provide me the product on January 1st, and at the end of the month, or from that day, I will pay it whenever after you bill me. So let's say you provide the service January 1st, you send them a bill January 31st. I will pay you 30, 60, or 90 days later after you send them the bill. Well, if I provide the service January 1st and I send the bill out 31st, that means I'm not getting paid till what? May 1st? April 1st? You see what I'm saying? What do I do to pay my staff in the meantime? Well, I need to get loans from the bank, or I need to borrow cash. I've got a cash in the bank. It's a different story. That means you have to pay all your advertising costs up front, salaries, all those things. That's not a good position to be in. You see, so this is why the magic green button is so important. If you can figure out how to get it in your business. So which type of business would you like to have? One that gets paid up front and pays expensive later with a strong cash position, or the other business model where you don't? And see, I want to point out here a couple things too. Now, whenever I talk about this concept, I get the similar kind of response. In fact, I work at a co-working space and I have a guy who's like me, he owns 3 businesses. And his response when I were talking about this, he's like, yeah, that wouldn't work in the solar business. I love this guy. And my response is, hey, but really this is everybody. And they say, hey, look, this concept sounds awesome, but it's not going to work in my industry or my business model because we're different. Our customers won't accept it. It's not the industry norm. if you guys said this, that's okay, because I agree. You know, when I say I mean agree, what I'm saying is it's an ingrained mindset in the industry or the business model. Because if this is your response, completely okay. Think about it. If all you've known your entire business career is everybody doing it this way, which is billing later or getting paid later or whatever, that's ingrained, especially if it's over 80%. So here's the thing though. Let me ask you this. Do you like the way that it's done right now? Do you like having to wait to get paid by your customers? Probably no. Yeah. You're not probably very happy about that, knowing there's other people who can do it the other way. So, question I've got for you is, what if somebody in your industry figured out a way to change it? What if they figured out how to get paid up front, or a way where they got paid more up front so they didn't have to wait? Now, let me ask you this. Would you rather be the last person to benefit from that new change of paradigm, or be the first? Changes things, right? So now that you know, again, I agree. If you've had this in your industry, this is a challenge for you in a positive way. How would you get the magic green button to work in your industry, your business model? So it's not no, it's not going to work, because you don't want that either, right? You don't want to say it's never going to work and don't change it. It's how would I make it work? How could I get customers to pay me 100%, and if not 100%, 50% or 25% upfront, or negotiate a retainer? How do I change it in my favor? That's what I want you to think about. Okay. All right, I got some. So the next thing is, let's say that you fixed your money machine. Now it's automated. Great. Doesn't require you to be there, which makes way more money per customer, 10 times. And you can outspend anybody. Your business is so successful, you dance circles around the competitors. They're begging you to know what your secret is. And you're like, I could tell you, but you're never going to copy me, because they don't think like that. Now it's time to scale. Not before you fix your problems, though. You got to fix those first. You have two options when it comes to expansion. Option one is opening a new location and paying all the costs associated with that. A lot of expense. It's very expensive to open a new location. Option two is acquiring a customer's money machine, fixing it up to be more like yours, the one that you have in the basement. Let's talk about option one first, which is opening a new location. If you've supercharged your money machine, you will have no problems walking into a bank and getting a low interest loan if you need funding. Here's the thing. People don't realize this, but like, banks look at you like you're risky. Your business as a risk. And there's a very high risk business, and there's like very low risk business. You want to walk into the bank and show the banker your stuff, and you want the banker to beg you to give you a loan because you're such a great customer. What they want to see these customers, low expensive cash flow, all this stuff. They want to see you have an amazing money machine that outclasses everybody in your industry. They want that. And so the thing about it is, when I talk about fixing your money machine, if you do it right and you walk into the bank and you've got this massively successful business, they're going to say, all right, well, here you go. Here's a loan. But you have to have the track record first. I mean, you can put together a business plan and get SBA loaning and stuff, but if you're going to do that at this level, you should have already fixed this problem first. If you're at this point in this presentation, you should have a business that's ready to scale, and you should be able to borrow money at low cost for you because you got such a winning business model. Or if not, you can just use the funds that you got to open a new location. But you got to remember, banks want to invest in businesses that have lots of sales, a proven track record, and money in the bank. They want it to be a slam dunk. This is a perfect customer for us. And you can choose to borrow money for the expansion, or you can use cash that's thrown off from your business. The key here is that you should be in a position that you can get traditional funding and not have to sell equity to investors. Because a lot of times people choose to sell equity because they don't have the money machine in a place where they can get funding from the bank. Why is this so important? Well, this is what I want you to think about, okay? If you take a loan from the bank, once you pay off the loan, your relationship with the bank ends. They're done. You give them the money back, you're out. If you sell your business for $10 million and you pay off the balance owed for the loan, You get to go to your private island and keep your fat payout. If you had to take an investor though, that investor gets a portion, a percentage of what you sell it for. So which would you rather have? A bank that you owe a set amount of money that gets paid off, just that set amount, or an investor who takes whatever you sell, percentage? That's 2.5 million of your sales. Well, I don't know about you, but I want to keep the payout all to myself if I can. That leads us to option 2, which is buying a competitor. And here's where you can really outsmart everyone else and buy like a billionaire. When you buy like this, you will be able to expand faster with little to no money down and rapidly grow. Now, to understand how this works, you got to understand how traditional business buying works itself. First, what happens is a business owner says, hey, I want to sell my business. Usually the scenarios are, I'm retiring, I'm tired of my business, I'm moving, somebody died, they took over. There's lots of different options here. Then that business owner either finds a buyer or they go to a business broker, which is, like selling real estate, it's like a broker. And it's kind of like putting a for sale sign on your house. That's what they do. And then there's a process that takes months to check the books, like the accounting books, to make sure everything's good, which takes months or years. It's a very long process. And at the end, the business gets an evaluation. Here's what it's worth. Usually it's based on the profitability of the business and growth potential. Now, I'm oversimplifying things here just for the presentation, but if you get this, it's pretty simple. And depending on the business, it'll be valued 3 to 5 times yearly profit. Again, very, very different based on the business model and what they're doing, location, all this stuff. That's why I'm saying everything's different. Very complex topic. Don't beat me up. But I'm just trying to give you like a simple example of how this works. So let's say a business makes $100,000 in profit every year. Well, it might get valued at 300 to 500 to keep things simple. So then the buyer in this traditional model goes out to get financing. Either part of it's invested, part of it's bank, or they buy the cash for themselves. They've got lots of options here. And at closing, when the seller sells the business, they walk away with the proceeds, $300,000 or $500,000 in cash, and the person takes over the business. That's how it works. Now, most people are familiar with this kind of business buying and selling, but it's not how billionaires like to buy businesses. That process is missing a key step and a key mindset of how to structure acquisitions. You see, after the business price is established, the missing step is negotiating terms. What are the terms of the purchase? In our case, that's the timing and the size of payments. What do I mean by that? Think about this. With our first example, depending on the range, the business was sold for a flat lump sum of $300,000 or $500,000. Okay, you got that. What if you could buy the business on a payment plan though? Maybe not thought of that before. When it comes to buying a business, it's called seller financing. I don't like that word because nobody wants to be financing a sale, but that's what they're doing. So we call it installment payments instead, because we don't want them to feel like they're giving away interest-free loans. So let's say you talk to that competitor and you negotiate the following terms. I'll buy your business for $300,000. Great, sounds good. I'll give you 5% down and I'll pay the rest over 36 months. In this case, you paid 5% of 300,000, which is 15 grand. Then you paid the rest, which is 8.19K a month. What's nice about this deal is that this business generates that much in profit. So you pay off the loan with the profits of the business. Now, here's where the magic really happens, guys. And this is something that you don't learn until you own property or own business. This is where you need to perk up, okay? So let's say you bought that business for $300,000, but you've tripled sales now. Here's the thing. That business is now worth $900,000 because it's a multiple on profits, remember? So when you sell, let's say a year later, you go to sell that business for $900,000. So you pay off the balance you owe the person before, which is less than 300,000. Not a bad payout to make over $700,000 with a year of work, is it? See, people, when I showed this to them, a light comes off. They're like, wait, money's not made by the profits of the business, it's made by buying and selling. Yeah. This is why when you hear, so now if you think about private equity, which I'm not going to go too much into detail, but what a private equity company does is they buy a portion of the business, 50%, 51%, or all of it, and they go in and they drive up the sales. They stay there for 3 to 5 years, usually 5, and they sell it. And this is how they do it. Businesses are valued based on multiple on profits or sales or growth, whatever they're doing. Well, they go in there for 5 years. They make the business worth 3 to 5 times more valuable than they sell it. And they walk away with a massive profit. You see what I'm saying? So that's why this is such an interesting way of doing it. If you're able to walk in that business and fix its money machine, this acquisition is going to be really good for you. Allows you to keep the cash you got in the bank and buy assets without having to use banks or investors. Okay. The next concept we're going to talk about is called the one domino. It comes from Tim Ferriss, author of the 4-Hour Workweek. Now, at a conference, Tim was asked about his morning routine. And his routine was a lot different than everybody else's. Instead of getting up to work and grinding and checking his email and social media, he did something different. First, he get 8 hours of sleep every night. Wake up, enjoy his coffee, read a book, journal, go on a walk, and just take it easy. And he asked himself one question. What one big thing, domino, can I do and knock over that will change everything in my life and move everything forward? And see, rather than focus on busy work, think about you guys. Who here has a million fires you got to put out at work all the time? Oh my gosh, always problems. What if you could do one thing that can preventively put out all the fires that are out now and put out future fires and move your business forward closer to your dreams? What if you can figure that out? Well, that's what he does. And once he figures out that one thing, he puts all of his energy into that because the fires don't matter. What matters is the root cause. What's the one domino you can knock over? You can do this for yourself. And this is what this means. What one domino can have a cascading effect and change everything in your life. See, that's what we're talking about. So to help you, I got to figure out what that domino is and knock it over in a way that will change everything. So what is the domino? I've actually given it a lot of thought. I've looked at some of the most successful people in the world, Steve Jobs, Michael Jordan, even artists from 500 years ago, Leonardo da Vinci. They all have one thing in common. They all had multiple Yodas. Now, for those non-Star Wars fans, that means they had several guides, coaches, mentors, people who were in their corner, people who saw their potential and believed in them, people who took their raw talent and developed them into the best versions of themselves in the world. The key I want to point out is that they had several mentors, not just one. You're going to need several people in your corner to help you. And this is a big plug for SCORE. If you do not have a SCORE mentor, go get one. If you go to the Buffalo's Niagara's website, you can actually request a mentor on there. I would highly recommend doing it because they're amazing. You're going to need smart people in your corner who are world-class in their area of expertise to guide you. That's why I mentioned this. So why do I say this? Because running a business is hard, probably one of the hardest things you can do in your entire life. I'll give you an example just to show you how it's so hard. So let's say, for example, you had to climb a skyscraper that's 1,000 stories tall. Look at this thing. You can't even see the top of it, it's so tall. 1,000 stories. You got to walk up each one. But at the top, you know that you will find a treasure chest that has all of your dreams inside. Let me ask you this. How long would it take you to walk up all 1,000 flights of stairs? Probably 16 hours. It'd be a lot of work, but it'd be worth it because it has a treasure chest that has all of your dreams inside it. You know with absolute certainty, if you go to the top, there's a treasure chest that has all the things you want, all the freedom, the dreams, everything. You'd go up that thing and be exhausted, but you'd do it. worth it because you'd have your dreams. Running a business is more complicated than that. Let's add some complication. Now I want you to imagine there are 1 million of those 1,000-story skyscrapers, but only 5 of them have treasure chests at this point. You still got to walk up each one manually to find the treasure chest. Now here's a new problem. Now, if you go up the wrong one, that skyscraper, the wrong one, might hurt you. You could lose money, financial security, relationships, your reputation could suffer, or you could lose your physical and mental health. You must choose the right skyscraper to climb, and each one still takes you a full day. Question for you, how do you choose the right one? And what's more likely to happen? You guessing right, which is only 5% of the top, 5 out of a million, or not right, guessing wrong, which is 999,995. Yeah. Next question. What if you guessed wrong for 5 years and you lost your life savings, your spouse, and your health started to suffer from the stress? See, there's an easier way to do this. Let's say that before you started searching for treasure, you assembled a trusted group of advisors to help you. By listening to them, you're able to narrow down that list from 1 million to 1,000. Only got 1,000 to search from now. And instead of having to walk up each of the stairs taking 16 hours, those advisors show you the secret elevators that get you to the top of each skyscraper in 2 minutes. How long does it take you to find the treasure now? Probably not that long. The only thing that matters in business is outcomes. Outcomes are the things and results that you want. In our example, that's the treasure chest. So for you, these outcomes are your dreams. So let's talk about your dreams for a second. And I want you to pause and think about this for about 10 seconds. And I want you to ask yourself this question. What do I really want? If I woke up tomorrow with all of my dreams fulfilled, what would the world look like? Do you want time freedom? That's the freedom to do what you want when you want it. And also hire people to do tasks you don't want to do. You want financial freedom. That means you can travel when you want, help your family financially, volunteer more, give back to the community. You want to travel the world. You want to buy a house for your family. If you feel comfortable, I'd like to hear about your dreams in the chat. And I'll share mine. When I first started, money wasn't important to me, but now it is. And the reason why money is important to me is because money represents security. It feeds my family. It lets me have time freedom. Like I've got assistants now that do a lot of my hard work. It gives me the ability to do what I want when I want. Travel. If my family needs something, I can help them. And so money is financial freedom is something that's been very important to me. And also experiences. I went to Disney World a year ago, maybe 2 years ago now. And we were in line and I saw these people who have these guides that they'll take you. These are personal guides around the park. They'll take you to the front of the line and you go on any ride you want, anytime you want. And I was like, man, this is awesome. Next time I go to Disney World, I'm going to hire a guide and pay him $500 an hour to take me in front of all the lines. See, I can do that because I got financial security now. But that's one of the things that I want in my life. I don't want hassle. I want to have things. I want to have easy and simple. So Angela says both time and financial. ZB says financial freedom, pursue volunteering opportunities in local communities, spend time with family. That's amazing. I'm glad that you want to contribute. Patricia wants balance, sometimes some money, some success. Yeah, you can have whatever you want. This is you. This is your dream. You know, some people say when they run a business that they just want to be comfortable. Maybe that's you. Maybe you want to have just the freedom to be comfortable and do what you want. That's great. The thing about it though is you got to remember this is you and your dreams, not anybody else's. You have to say what your truth is for you. But the reason this is important is you got to know what you want in life. That's why I mentioned this stuff. Okay. Now let me ask you this. Which of these two options would you prefer? Option one, working 80 hours a week for 5, 10, 20 years with the hope one day you make your dreams happen, or getting there in 6 months or 1 year, 2 years. Which option would you pick? I bet you'd pick option two every time. You want your dreams faster. That's why I recommend getting a trusted group of advisors around you. Wrapping up, in today's workshop, we talked about the several keys to scaling without investors, which is how to improve your money machine before scaling, the business that can spend the most on advertising wins, how to make 2 times, 5 times, 10 times more per customer, magic green button, and then also the 1 domino, and how to buy like a billionaire. If you enjoyed today's workshop, I'll provide some ways to continue learning. When I was in your shoes, I would take every resource a speaker had. Like, I would be the person who runs to the back of the room and asks a ton of questions to the speaker. That's what I did. So typically when a group does workshops in person, you would have been able to do the same with me. It's a little bit harder to have that natural community in a virtual workshop. So what I will do is I will open myself up to virtual coffees for anybody watching the webinar. Everybody's welcome. I'll put the link in the chat. You guys just want to talk, I'm available. And the next thing we'll do is we'll answer questions that we've got that people have of the presentation. And Stephanie said, I want to grow my business. This helps so much. Great. I'm glad that this is helpful for you guys. Glad that you guys enjoyed it.
Thanks, Alexander.
Sure.
Do we want to wait a couple of seconds, give a couple of seconds yet for people to ask questions, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll stick around for a few minutes because I went a little long in the presentation, guys. So I want to answer questions if you got them.
Okay, I want to thank you for an enlightening presentation, talking about for me in particular, talking about irresistible offers, and the offer ladder was an interesting concept for me. I enjoyed that. And there were quite a few things in your presentation that I really appreciated. So, and I hope that our attendees did too. Anything in the chat right now? Let's see.
And guys, you know, I do, if you guys want me back for more presentations, I'm more willing to come back and do more stuff. I've got 2 other ones that I do that I'm developing a few other ones too. You guys just let me know which topics you want me to teach on.
Well, we'll be talking about that definitely. And as the you know, for the coming months, I can see that we will be asking Alexander to come back and look at different aspects for improving our businesses.
And my whole thing, guys, is this is how to like scale without investors. I'm kind of putting together a series, which is, remember I mentioned the secret success formula, which is the first one is how to increase sales by getting your best customers and slam dunk offers. That one's a really good one. The 2 other workshops that I'm developing right now are leads on demand, which is how to get customers fast, the one that you want, and then the magic sales process, which is how to convert them. And my hope is that by teaching you guys all this stuff, you get to use all of my failures and my learning, some things that don't work, and like here's the secret stuff that does, that you can actually use to grow your businesses, and then be in my chair in a few years and be giving back to everybody else here. So I got a question.
Yeah, Luann has an interesting question there. How do you discern which advice is the right advice?
Oh, I love this question. Oh my goodness, guys. This is a good question. So, Luann, if you haven't realized yet, when you watch presentations, everybody's going to tell you, you should do this right now. You got to do this thing. Say SEO, you got to do SEO right now. You got to do this. You got to get on this social media. The answer is having advisors who know what they're doing, because most of the time, believe it or not, just in the skyscraper example, it's not the skyscrapers you're going up, it's the ones that you don't go up. So when we talk about the example, they said, here's the 1,000 to search from. Don't look at the other ones. So you need to have advisors who can tell you, here's what you should be doing, here's what you're not. And that's why I break down running a business with those 4 simple things, which is find your best customers. There's a process to do that. Make slam dunk offers that can't refuse and make 10 times more than your competitors. Create a process that gives you leads on demand, which is your customers when you want them. And so my big thing when I was running a business and learning is people gave me really bad advice. And sometimes you see people with 10 million followers giving bad advice. And so that's why you need advisors to tell you, nope, don't do that stupid stuff. Here's what you do instead. Because running a business and being successful, the things that and by the way, this, as I'm going around teaching, my objective is to be able to get this knowledge into more people's hands. I want to be a speaker and an author. And so you guys learning from this and be able to take these and make real world success in your business is really helpful. So you have, but like whenever you hear people say you should do this, you should do this, they take it with a grain of salt, because really business is very simple. Find a customer, figure out a European desire that's really big, get it to them. They'll pay a lot of money for it. Or figure out a big pain, take care of it. They'll pay you a lot of money for it. And then do all the things I talked about. If you get these small things right in your business, you don't have to do 10,000 things, because when you make that much money from a business and you're way more profitable than your competitors, you walk into a bank, they're like, hey, let me throw loans at you. They compete. It's just, and so that's why you have to have advisors, people in your corner, and you have to experience too. Like when people tell me what to do, usually I laugh. I'm like, you guys have no idea what you're talking about. It comes from experience, but also having good advisors in your corner. Like I'm helping somebody grow their business. This is a side story, but I think is a good one. And they were, she had an agency that was doing their ads, and they were totally clueless. They had no idea what they're doing, but she was paying them a lot of money per month. And I'm like, look, fire them. Let me help you find a better agency who actually knows what they're doing. Help her find it. She's having massive success because I know how to, I own businesses. I hired these guys before. I know who sucks. I know what's good. And so I was able to advise her, here's how you get rid of all the people who don't know what they're talking about and find the good ones. And now she's massively successful because of that interaction. But see, that's because she had me helping her scale her business. You know, that's why I didn't help her. Theodore asked, what's the advice for how to present the concept of paying in full to the customers? It depends on your business. And it's a great question. I can't give you an answer because I don't know about your business, but if you want to talk with me, I'm more than willing to help you be able to do that. I promise you, I'm not trying to dodge. It's just it's a conversation. I can't really answer it. It depends, but it is possible. And we just have to talk about it. Wayne asks, for companies like mine, where it's professional service consulting at large enterprises, other ways to redirect yeah, there is. Get a retainer. Like whenever I work, I'll give you an example. When my wife, she got laid off from her job and they want to hire her back like in 30 days. I'm like, look, if you're gonna go back, know that you don't have the same protections as an employee. You know what I mean, Wayne. What I mean by that is employees, they don't pay you, they're in trouble. Contractors, oh, they'll stiff you all day long. And what a lot of times these companies do is they'll say, okay, contractor, work from January 1st to 31st, then bill us and pay you March 1st. And then March 1st comes around, they're like, actually, we're not going to pay you the full amount. Maybe we pay you next month, but we'll pay you we owe you $100. We'll pay you $70 if you take it now. It happens. It does. And they know this. And they know that you as the professional service provider does it. So whenever I work with companies, I'm like, all right, look, we can do net payment terms. We can negotiate it, but you got to pay me. So I've got money in front. So if you don't pay your bill, I'm not going to work with you. Now I say that nicer to them in negotiation, but the problem is you got to be able to, and people are going to say, no, they're not going to work with you, but you got to find the right, this is where finding the right customer works and who value, and they'll work with you. They'll understand. Like there's a reason why the retainer model works, because that's just how it works. And if you're really good and they really want you more than you want them, you can negotiate a year up front. I've seen it happen before. I've seen situations where I've got people who provide services where the customers want them so badly where they pay them a full 40 hours of work a week just to be available for whenever they need a problem, and they don't call them for months. So yeah, it can happen. You have to navigate that. Any advice for building a coaching team? You just have to set the intention out there. Score is a good place to start. If you don't have any money, start with Score Mentors because they're free. As you grow your business, you will get more funds to be able to hire professionals and consultants to actually be on your team and advise you. It's kind of like the life cycle of businesses. Like think about it. Like Apple doesn't have, Score Mentors are great, but I don't think there's any Score people helping Tim Cook of Apple. You see, just as you grow, you're going to outgrow Score eventually. But Score is great when you're first starting out, and they'll get you to like where you need to go. Like my Score Mentor is awesome. I still chat with them every once in a while, but I'm at the point now in my business where, I've outgrown a lot of the things that he helped me with. He helped me with a lot of stuff to get started, but like, that's why Score Mentors are awesome. And that's why I say, I give the example of the thing, which is, you got to think, because here's the thing, a lot of people think they just have one Score Mentor. You can have multiple ones. Like you ask Ted, there's probably people he's helped before where he'll help them. And then if there's a specific problem, they can call other mentors and bring them in for specific problems. You can have multiple ones for specific issues. That's why I'm saying you got to have a team.
Yeah, and let me comment on that too,
Yeah.
because as a mentor myself, I frequently bring in co-mentors, either from our own chapter or from outside our chapter, depending on what the concern is from the client or from what the particular subject area is that the client's dealing in. I just wanted to endorse that point that as far as SCORE goes, multiple mentors or having sessions with co-mentors, co-mentoring is a very frequent thing that's done with SCORE.
Yeah. And you want to assemble a team that wants to help you. Everybody at SCORE wants you to be massive successful because they want you to be successful. And they also want the bragging rights. My mentor brags about me all the time. It's, you know, he's responsible for it. So I want him to brag. It's awesome. And they also get to give back. I'm just saying, like, they want to help you. So use the help. DB asked, I need more specifically for marketing, advertising yourself with consultant other businesses. You'll want to come to my session called Leads on Demand in the Sales Process. I talk more about that. That's kind of outside the scope of this particular workshop, but I talk about how to do the marketing stuff if you want to come to those. I'm not, again, if you want to talk with me, more than happy to talk with virtual coffee. But it's just outside the scope of this particular workshop. And I'm going to be teaching more in depth on it. And I can give you more in an hour session than I can and trying to answer it in 30 seconds kind of thing. Yeah, I hope you took that the right way. I didn't want to be like, no, I'm deflecting your question. Not that at all. I want to make sure you're successful. So I'll work with Ted. If you guys want me back, make sure to leave do the surveys, because that's what matters, is you guys filling it out and saying that you liked me, because I can come back if you want. My plan is to teach all across the country, and I'm developing new workshops as I listen to you guys, any pain points you've got. So I appreciate everybody asking questions, because it also lets me know what you guys want to hear, what pain points you're running into, and it helps me develop concept and workshops to help you guys with what you're experiencing. And yeah.
Well, I'd like to say thank you, Alexander, for your presentation. I'd like to say thank you to our attendees for being here tonight. We will be talking with Alexander about future webinars, and those will be scheduled and will be put onto our website. So keep looking at the workshop's webpage on buffaloniagara.score.org for future webinars. Again, thanks a lot for everyone being here tonight. I wish you all a good evening and stay healthy.
Thanks, everybody. I'll see y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.